and welcome to a very special edition of the Blood Brothers podcast. It's the final episode of the year, and it's our Book of the Year episode. I'm on my own from the other hosts, I should say, but I've got a very, very special guest and the winner of our Book of the Year. Say hello to S.A. Cosby.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me. This is a great honor. I truly appreciate it.
Well, you've earned it. By our listeners. We do a thing every year where we ask for the books of the year for our listeners. So it's a very much a listener-led vote. Although the host absolutely loved it as well. But you absolutely unanimously won it. Razorblade Tears is the 2022 Blood Brothers Book of the Year. So thank you very much for writing it.
Well, thank you to all the readers and all the listeners. That Razorblade Tears is a book that I when I first wrote it, I didn't know how people were going to receive it. I knew how I intended it, but whenever you put something creative out into the world, everybody absorbs it through their own prism. But I'm just so gratified that people have connected with the book the way they have, and that they understand my intentions in writing it.
And people really it has resonated with people. I read it, and I've got really fun memories because I read it in a water park in Spain while my children were running off on slides and all sorts. I had it on my sun lounger, and I was, when they called me to be like, "Daddy, look at this," I'm like, yeah, and book in my hand. So I was awful daddy of the day, but I was just absorbed in it. So it's really fond memories for me. Please, can you tell us, for the listeners that may not have listened to it, and I mean, shame on them, but what is it about?
Yeah, certainly. So Razorblade Tears is the story of two fathers, one black, one white, both ex-convicts, whose gay sons are married. And at the beginning of the book, their sons have been murdered. And so these two men with not very much in common except a criminal past and a sense of a mouthful of regret, decide to investigate the murder of their children, to find the killers, get revenge, and hopefully, possibly achieve a sense of redemption for not loving their sons in life the way they should have.
And that's really beautifully put. The characters are really memorable. Like I say, I read this in July, and I've read probably about 20 books since, but I keep coming back to the characters, especially the two dads who take the sort of fore of the story. Please, could you just tell us a little bit about how those characters came about?
So the two characters, the one father, the African-American father's name is Ike, and the white gentleman's father name is Buddy Lee. These gentlemen, these characters are characters drawn from people I knew, people that I grew up around. They're my high school classmates' fathers. They're my friends' dads or uncles. They're men who have a very narrow definition of masculinity, and they're men who have to learn, unfortunately, through the most trying and horrific circumstances, that, at the end of the day, love is love, and that's not something that these men are able to fully appreciate or articulate. They're men who are quick to violence, and so a lot of times in the book, the violence is how they communicate. And even though this violence is in service to revenge for their children, it's still violence. And so it's still a sort of somewhat toxic way to relate to the world. But that's all they know at the beginning of the book. But by the end of it, I hope that they and the reader have gone on a journey to understand acceptance, and also understand that, everyone should be allowed to be the full version of the person they're meant to be. And I think if you asked Ike and Buddy Lee at the beginning of the book versus the end of the book, they'd have very different answers to that question or that idea.
Yeah, that's what an answer. Have you been surprised at how big the reaction to the book has been? I mean, you've come to London to talk about it, and it's taken you possibly places that you might not have imagined that it did.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. So I'm always honored and amazed and a little bewildered about the places that words have taken me. And with Razorblade Tears, as you said, I've been to London, I've been to Seattle, Washington, I've been all across the United States talking about the book, in Los Angeles, New York. And everywhere I go, people who love the book love the characters. They love Buddy Lee and Ike in spite of their shortcomings, in spite of their faults, because I think they see in those characters the idea that redemption is possible, but redemption is not a gift. You have to work at it. And I think for me, the book has changed my life. I had a book come out a couple of years ago called Blackout Wasteland, which was also very well received, won a lot of awards. But the intensity in which people connect with Razorblade Tears is totally off the charts. It's totally different. I've had more than one person tell me that they're the parent of a gay child or a trans child or a non-binary child, and how the book has influenced the way they interact with their children, whether it's caused them to reach out to a child they haven't talked to in a while, or it's caused them to really understand a child or a loved one that they didn't give enough energy to understand. There's a line in the book where Ike is lamenting that he thought he had time to fix things with his son. He thought they'd have enough time to repair the relationship. And, you think you have enough time, but you don't, and he says in time is like a river made of quicksilver that slips through your fingers, even as it's surrounding you. And I think if nothing else people take from this book is that you don't have enough time. And so if you love someone, if you care about someone, and maybe you don't understand who they are, make the effort, because, things can change in a heartbeat. There's old religious saying from my time in church as a kid that life is filled with swift transitions, and you never know when things are going to change. And so if you have someone that you care about, make the effort. Ike and Buddy Lee waited too late, and so don't wait too late.
Oh, that's amazing. And I mean, what a powerful thing that the words that you've written have transformed people's lives in that way. And I mean, that's testament to how powerful the book is. So that must feel amazing. Never mind the other awards that are coming your way. Can you tell us a little bit about what's coming next?
Yeah. So next year, in June 2023, to be precise, I have a book coming out called All the Sinners Bleed. And the basic elevator pitch for that is the story of the first Black sheriff in a small southern town, sheriff named Titus Crown. And on the 1-year anniversary of his election, there's a shooting at a local high school. A beloved teacher is killed by a former student, and then the former student is killed by Titus's deputies. And in investigating the shooting, he finds out that the student, the teacher, and a third unknown person were a trio of serial killers, and they've been using his town as the dumping ground. And so he seeks to find this third person, as he calls him, the last wolf. But he also is dealing with a very volatile political situation in town. Besides this, that there is a far right group who wants to hold a rally / protest. And so Titus has to deal with that. At the same time, he's hunting for this killer. At the same time, he's dealing with incredibly deep and complex and dark secrets from his own past. So that'll be out June of 2023. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a little different. I'm writing about a sheriff. I'm writing about it from the point of a police officer. But I think ultimately the story in All the Sinners Bleed is about how we carry these stones, these millstones around our necks of the past regret, of past hurts, and how those past regrets inform our current life. And so I think, I'm excited for people to read the book, and I'm excited for people to visit Titus and his small town and see how those small town sensibilities are, I think, palatable to anybody.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not one to wish time away, but if June could roll around quickly, I'd appreciate it. And finally, can you tell us about your book or books of the year? What have you enjoyed reading, or has there been a standout one?
Oh yeah, no, it's been great. I think I've really enjoyed reading. I finally got a Kindle this year. It's my first year having a Kindle, because I'm really a big physical book guy, but I have way too many books, and so I was able to read a lot more because I could carry the little Kindle around with me everywhere I went. Um, a couple books that I read this year that stood out to me. Um, One was it actually came out last year, but I read it early this year. It was a book called Don't Know Tough by Eli Craner. That's an incredible book set in America in the state of Arkansas. Another book that's out in the UK this year that I really love is The Last King of California by Jordan Harper. For my money, Jordan Harper is one of the finest crime writers working today, and I don't think anybody is thinking about the art and the craft of writing in the way that Jordan is. And I think finally, a book that has just released in the UK, released by a friend of mine, but that doesn't influence my recommendation, maybe a little bit. But it's a book called Like a Sister by Kelly Garrett. It's a interesting domestic thriller about a young lady who comes to New York City to investigate the death of her high class Instagram influencer sister, and the mystery that unfolds. But also, it's a story about the bonds between siblings and how fragile and yet how incredibly strong those bonds can be. So those are three books that stood out to me among a plethora of books I read. It was a really great year for crime fiction, and so and I mean, I don't just read crime fiction, but those are the books that stood out to me.
Yeah, and I've read Jordan Harper's book. I read both of them back to back actually, and I'm really hoping that Everybody Knows finds a UK publisher, because I've heard amazing things about that. But I don't think it is coming out over here at the minute. But I'm assuming somebody will pick it up because that man is on fire. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really hoping. I think he's coming on the podcast in January actually, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Those two books were from, yeah, up there with mine. Um, well, thank you so much. We said we were going to keep it short just because it was a little episode, but I mean, June, please come back to us and and have a chat about All the Sinners Bleed, because I imagine that's going to blow people out of the water.
Well, thank you. I would love to do it. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, and congratulations on being the Blood Brothers Book of the Year.
Thank you so much. It really is an incredible honor. I'm always touched when people are able or people acknowledge my books and they connect with them in such a way. So I never take this for granted. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and listeners, thank you so much for listening to everything this year. It's been a busy one, but it's been a really good one, and some of the guests we've had have been, incredible names and debuts, and we've just had such a great year listening to them all. So hopefully you have too, and we will see you again in 2023. Have a great new year. Bye bye.